morning and welcome to gentle yoga. So we're going to start in any butterfly pose that you like. So you can start with a seated butterfly pose where you fold forward, or you can start with a reclining butterfly pose where you lie down. A lot of times a little support into the knees is nice if you're doing either one. So if you got some throw pillows, you can put those underneath. And then you can find a way to let yourself relax into the shape that you picked. Take some nice deep breaths. And try to get all the way down to the very little bottom edges, all around the edges. So that you're feeling the rib cage expand, the belly expand, or the back expand, depending on the shape that you've chosen for your start. Let's do about 4 more breaths. Try to relax the top of the head, around the temples and the eyes. See if you can let your jaw relax and the lips get fluffy and soft. And then take a big inhale. Let go with a big ah. So if you're on your back, you can bring your knees together or straighten out your legs. If you're seated, come on up, lean back, straighten out the legs. I'm going to give it a little bit of a jiggle. And then you can just move in ways that feel interesting. So if I were laying on my back, I'd be doing like some little windshield wipers with the legs, a little back massage. Here it feels nice just to kind of go back and forth a little bit. And then we're going to come to a like a cross-legged seating position, whatever works for you. If it's better for you to have your legs stretched out straight, you can do it that way too. So we're going to do a little side bend. Get these guys up a little bit. Turn a little more on the diagonal. So we're going to take the arm out, do a little side bend, and then sweep forward, take that arm out, and open it into a little side bend. So just going to go back and forth. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be slow. So kind of whatever feels appropriate for you. When I get to the edge here, I'm rotating my ribs as far as I can, so my armpit goes as far up and back as I can get it to go. So, rotate up. Rotate up. Rotate up. We're going to do it one more time on the other side. Rotate up. Okay. Now, we're going to switch which leg is crossed in front of which. And for some of us, that's going to be really wacky because we have one way that we're used to sitting cross-legged. So we're going to go the other way and then sweep it around and open. And it might be different when you have a different leg in front. Just do your best. So we're going to do one more set. Feels good. Okay, come on back to the middle. And come on up. Now, you can do seated cat-cows if that's better for you. Just kind of take the back forward and back. Or you can come with me and do some kneeling cat-cows. So, on your hands and knees, and giving your knees whatever support they need. Taking the back into a rounded shape, and I try to find out, can I get this part of my back to curve a little bit more that way, because it stretches those muscles out so nice. And then come into here, it's easy for me to get my low back to dip, but can I get a little bit of movement, a little flattening in my upper back just to create a little movement in those muscles. My spine isn't really changing shapes. It's changing a little bit, but it's the muscle around the spine that I'm trying to get moving. So even though it feels to me like I'm flattening my upper back curve, probably if I looked at it from the side, it would still look like it's curving. So 2 more. You can do wrist stuff if that feels good. Turn your hands in different directions. I haven't been doing anything like that yet today. Okay. So then we're going to come to a lunge, and just one foot comes forward. You can do either leg forward. I am appreciative of some blocks because it gives me a little bit of sturdiness. And then I'm just moving this hip forward a bit and then coming away from that sensation. I'm going to do that a few times, 3 or 4. And what I'm looking for is where's the point where I just feel sensation? And where's the point where I feel too much sensation? Yep, like that's too much. And so I'm going to try to find the spot right between those 2 places. And then you could go down lower. For this lunge, I'm going to come up higher because it's feeling kind of nice to open around my chest and get a little bit more of a back bending shape in. It does encourage me to back off a little bit as well. I'm going to take 2 more breaths. It's kind of wobbly. Big stretch right there on that hip. Oh, and then we'll come out of there and we're going to kind of melt the hip back and then bring it forward and come on back. Oh, and we're looking for where does my hamstring stretch start? And so when it starts and you find that kind of spot where you're like, I feel it, pause just there or just beyond that point. Try not to go to a place where it feels like you're tearing something or hurting yourself. I've discovered that connective tissue really can't be bullied, and usually when we feel pain, it's right at the connective tissue point. And so kind of finding somewhere where you feel the stretch of the middle of the leg but not so sharp at the hip is the best. Okay, one more breath here. And then we'll switch sides. So I'm going to stop in the middle here and give everything a little shake and do a few cat-like shapes and just see where it landed you. So one of the things I find really interesting and cool about yoga in general is that the moment where I've done one side but I haven't done the other, because I can feel the difference between one hemisphere of my body and the other hemisphere. Okay, so I've switched myself into my other lunge, and now I'm going to do this forward and backward movement. It's really subtle, it doesn't have to be big. I'm just trying to feel, like, where do I feel the sensation and where does it turn into too much? And then I'm going to find that sweet spot right in the middle and come on up. And you're choosing the lunge that works best for you, whether it's a crescent shape like I'm doing, or you're doing something a little lower. And one more big breath here. And then we're going to back the hips up. And again, I'm going to do this a couple times. I'm going to go back and then let it go. So I want it, like, where do I just feel that stretch? Right there in the hamstrings. And then I'm going to try to find that spot right where it begins. Sometimes I like to pick my toes up and slide my heel a little further forward. Sometimes I sit towards the back a little bit more, so you can experiment. And then take deep breaths. And one more, yogis. All right, and then we're going to come back to that all fours position. Oh, give everything a shake. Shake going that way. Okay. Now we're going to do some cobras. So start with a couple of little back shapes. And then find yourself in a position where you are laying down on your mat with enough room for your legs to extend. Scooch forward a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to take my feet and press them down into the floor. And the The fact that I've got some props back here is kind of helping me because I'm scooching my toes underneath them. I'm going to put the hands a little farther back, like chest muscle height. And then inhale, press your legs into the floor and lift. And you don't have to go very far. We're just going to do little baby cobras to start with. Just lift and come on back down. Lift and come on back down. We'll do 2 more of these. Inhale up. Pull the elbows back. Exhale, come on back down. And then 1 more time. Now, wherever you got yourself to, you're going to bring your elbows to the floor there. And it could be that this little sphinx is pretty far up. It could be that your little sphinx is more like a crocodile, and that's fine. You just want to look for the right amount of space so that you and your low back can work things out. So I've bent the knees in the back so that I can work with trying to lift my thighs and press my hip flexors into the floor a little bit more. And I'll eventually let that relax a little bit around the furniture that I've got. And so we're trying not to be abusive to the low back, but we're trying to give that low back a little bit of a back bendy shape. If you spend a lot of time leaning forward over the computer, this kind of a shape can feel kind of a little tenuous, a little bit. I hope it doesn't feel aggressive. If it does, back off. But like you can, recognize that your back hasn't been in this shape in a while. If you haven't been doing a bunch of back bends at your house. So we're going to take 1 more big breath here. And then we'll come out of our Sphinx and just give it a little windshield wiper. Now, we're going to get hold of 1 foot. So to do that, for me, it's best if I use a strap. If you have a yoga strap, you can use one too, or if you can just grab your foot, you can do it that way. So the way that I use the strap is I wrap it around my foot, around my ankle, and then I like the strap to be pretty long, so I'm going to put mine through my buckle. If you don't have a buckle, you're just going to hold on to the ends, okay? But having a longer strap helps for me. And then I make it so that there's just a loop like that around my ankle. Now, I'm going to lay on the mat, back on my belly. I've got this strap over my shoulder. And now I'm going to press the front of my hip into the floor and try to lift my thigh off the floor. Now, if you're holding onto your foot, then you can use your hand for resistance to try to get that thigh up a little bit. So we're stretching out the front of that hip flexor. If you're like me and you're using the strap, you can hold onto it up front while you're kind of sphinxed. And then we're trying to feel that in the top of the thigh, front of the hip. But we're not trying to feel any problems in the knee. That's why I like to use a strap, because I can keep the knee joint more open and still get this really great stretch on the front of my hip. And I can feel it moving all the way up through the middle of my body towards my spine, just underneath my shoulder blades. So that tells me I'm in the right track here. It's not pulling or pinching on my back. It's not making my back feel like it's in trouble, but I can definitely feel the muscle that I am working here with this pose. So we're going to take 1 more breath on this side. And you're going to relax that side down, and I'm going to switch legs. So you can pause for a moment and do a little shimmy. I'm going to do that while I switch sides. So I'm going to shimmy that one leg I just did, and then get this leg into place. Okay, now I've got it over my shoulder. You could also reach back and hold it that way. This is just easier for me. And then I'm going to take the front of my hip and press it down and try to lift my thigh. It doesn't have to go very high. Some people can get their thighs way up off the ground. Cool. But if you're like me and you can't get that to go because you got tight hip flexors, tight quads, that's the way life is sometimes, you're still going to feel that stretch. And so I'm reaching back through my knee. I'm lifting my thigh. I'm using the strap for help. And I'm pressing my foot into the strap so that I've got some structure. And then I'm trying to breathe through that stretch because it can be kind of spicy. It's a good spicy right now, but it could be spicy. Not so good. Couple more breaths. All right, I might be lying to you. It's probably going to be 3. hopefully you're doing well, yogis. We got one more big breath. Reach that thigh back there, and then let everything soften. Let go of your foot. And then you can give everything a little bit of a rinse. And I like to do a little kind of child's posy shape from here, where I go back towards child's pose, not quite all the way, and give it just a side to side wobble movement. Because that feels nice, in the sacrum. And it lets me have a little bit more freedom to do some little cat shapes while I'm there. Okay, come on around to a seated position when you're ready. All right, so you got both legs stretched out front, and we're going to take one knee and bend it. So I'm going to keep my strap handy because it is useful. Again, if you don't have one, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to do the pose without. And I also have a throw pillow. So once I've bent this knee, and you can bring this foot in as tight to your groin as it's willing to go. If I try that, I get complaints from my knee. So I just bend it until I feel like, yep, that's as far as my knee wants to bend today. And then you can also put a pillow under there. And I don't know if you can catch that move. So I leaned all my body weight into this leg, and I'm pulling this hip back a little bit. And what that does for me, because usually when I first extend my leg, I'm kind of tilted at the diagonal. Now it has tilted me straight down the center, so I can go straight over this leg. And it gives me a more even stretch on the back of my thigh, on the hamstrings. So I'm going to fold forward as far as I'm able to fold forward. Now, technically, I can hold on to my foot, but I can also use a strap to make that happen. So I like to keep the buckle not on my flesh, so not on my foot and not on my hand. Put my hand through a little loop in the strap, or hold on to the end and wrap it like that so you can hold on. And then you can push like you're pushing on the gas. So I'm going to extend the toes forward a little bit, and then as I fold, I'm going to try to use that little bit of pressure that I'm creating to lift myself up and get a little longer through my back, so that the movement is mostly coming from the pelvis instead of from rounding my back. Now, it's possible that for you, your hamstrings are tight enough that getting your chest on your thigh is ridiculous. So maybe you're up this way. So you push on the gas, pull on the strap, and lift and bring the breastbone forward. And that's still going to give you that same sense that where you're kind of drawing yourself out long in two different directions from the hip at the center. So out through the leg, out through the spine, folding that as best we can. And then we're going to take 2 more big breaths here. Now you can do this pose with a rounded back, and we do that in yin, but for this class today, let go and come on up. Especially at this time where it feels sort of like a lot of us are maybe not able to get as much movement in our world. We might be, trying to work from home in these little cramped home office spaces that are not the same as we're used to. Maybe you have a more palatial office at home than you do at your job, but that would be nice. But in any case, so you may not. And so in a time where you might be kind of a little less able to get a lot of movement going in your body, or when you feel like you're spending more time kind of rounding over things, sewing machines, or computers, whatever you might be rounding over, having the spine stay long is really a nice way to approach these poses. All right, so I'm going to pull that sit bone back. I'm aiming myself down the center here. I'm going to either use the strap or I'm going to use my hand to hold onto the foot, and then organizing it so I don't have a buckle pinch in my flesh anywhere. Push on the gas, lengthen your back. And so we're going to kind of take a nice big long, like we're trying to make ourselves into an angle. For you math peeps out there, trying to make ourselves an angle. And then if you wanted to get fancy at homeschooling, you could try to figure out what the degree is with your kiddos, or just for you, because I don't know about you, but a lot of that math is Something I don't do very often. I have to remind myself how to do it again. Oh. So we're going to take 2 more breaths. And we'll release this foot and inhale our way up. And then let yourself kind of rinse out. All right. So we're going to take ourselves into a bridge shape. Before we do that, we're going to pause on the back and just do some little back massagey things. If you have a yoga block handy, or if you've got a pillow handy, you could use those to help support your bridge, and you could do a more relaxed version of this. We're going to start with some movement first, so wait on that until we get to the point where we're going to hold the shape. Okay, so set those off to the side so they're where you want them to be, and then you're going to lay on your back. Now, once you get there, as I said, we're going to do a little bit of movement. So just this little windshield wiper thing, or bring your knees in, give yourself a little back massage. This feels really nice, especially for me, right around the sacrum. Just doing a little circle right around the sacrum feels nice. Okay, now, bring your feet to the ground and snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you. And if you're like me and you've got kind of a little bit of a slippery surface underneath you, you may find that your feet don't anchor as well. So you can work as best you can to kind of create some anchoring for your feet. Okay, so we're going to snuggle, and we're going to keep the arms down at the beginning. When the hips go up, we're going to lift the hips and the arms at the same time, and then we're going to let the arms rest overhead. You might need to bend your elbows in order to accommodate either your space or your shoulders. And then when the hips are all the way down, then we're going to bring the arms back to neutral. Okay? So hips go up, arms go up. Same movement. Leave the arms overhead so you can snuggle into that lift, and then you're going to try to peel yourself down. Don't move your arms yet. Peel yourself down, 1 vertebrae at a time. Try to feel each vertebrae in your back touch down on the floor. Now, when I get to my pelvis, it goes really quick because those just come down more as a unit. That's fine. And once the sacrum's down, then bring your arms down. Okay? Snuggle them back in. Here we go. Hips up, arms up. And then we're going to pause, leave those arms up there. I like to rock a little bit side to side on the muscle in my upper back, and then we're really going to curl. Some people find this easier if they lift up onto their tiptoes. That's fine. So feel your back come down 1 bone at a time. When you get to that part where it curves in normally, that might come down more as a unit. Just see what you can do to get it 1 bone at a time. And then bring your arms down. Snuggle them under. Okay, we're going to do that 1 more time. So we're going to go hips up, arms up. Oh. Pause at the top. Give yourself a little rinse, a little movement in that upper back. Lift the hips if it feels okay. Scoop your tailbone under a little, and then start to come down. Nice and slow. Nice and slow. So we're going to let the tailbone and the pelvis, once we settle things down, go back into their neutral shape. Once that sacrum lands nice and firm, bring your arms back down. Okay. Snuggle them under. So this is the part where we're going to hold a bridge pose. And you could just go up and hold that pose and hang out with it. Now, I love to do it with my arms up over my head. So I might come into this bridge, bring my arms up here, grab my elbows, bring my feet in a little farther, give myself a little bit more structure, and then just hang. Move the hips side to side. Okay. You might want to take a pillow or a block and bring it underneath your hips. Oh, the pillow's a little harder. And a little softer, right? And then let your pelvis rest. So you're still technically in a bridge. You're just resting on your throw pillow or on your block. You could use a block that way too. Just get it underneath there. My mat is giving me some resistance. My pants are giving me resistance. But I got it. So it's underneath the pelvis. It's not under your low back. And then that can be a way to kind of relax into the bridge shape as well. The one benefit of relaxing into the bridge shape is you do have the option of straightening out legs, one or both, and that gives a little bit bigger stretch to that area we were working on in that frog sphinxy shape where we were holding on to one leg. So, pausing for a few moments. We're going to do 2 more breaths. Make sure this isn't doing things to the neck that feel wrong to you. If it is, you want to keep a lower profile or skip this pose and choose to go back to the Sphinx or the cobras would work. Okay, so we're going to take the hips down one little bit at a time. You might have to get your block out of there first. Once your pelvis settles onto the ground, you can do, that feels so nice. Do some little windshield wipers or come back to those little circles right around the sacrum. And then we're going to stretch out one leg. Keep one leg in if you can. Give it a little hug. Just give that ankle a spin. And then go the other direction. Point and flex your foot. All right, so I'm going to hug that leg in nice and snug, and then I'm going to stretch it out as long as I can stretch it. Really give it a little bit of a jiggle and a stretch, and then rest that one on the floor. Hug the other one in. This one might come with it a little bit, and then spin your foot. In the other direction after a bit. Point and flex. And then let go of that leg. Stretch it out. Okay. So you got both legs stretched out, snuggle your shoulder blades in, find a spot for your arms to rest. If you're like me and when you lay down on the floor, there's a little extra curve to your low back that feels uncomfortable, take a throw pillow or even 2, you can use one for each leg, and just put it right under your thighs. And that will generally cause the hip flexor right here to soften back, right, and help your low back relax into the floor. The reason your low back might be arching, outside of the fact that you might have extra fleshiness on your bum, but it's usually more likely that your hip flexor is a little snug and it's pulling your low back up into the air. So if you can bend that spot right there, it'll usually let you relax a little bit more. Okay. So this is Shavasana corpse pose, and you can stay as long as you like. I'm going to bid you adieu and come up and say namaste to you with my eyes. So hopefully you've enjoyed your gentle yoga class. Stay as long as you want in that Shavasana. Namaste, yogis.